I had so many requests to make a shim Uncle Sam, so here goes nothing. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start to glue together our shims. Just use as many as you want to make it as wide as you want. I believe I used 12 in this process. So you're just gluing the thin side, all the thin sides together. You can kind of see I'm just using hot glue, and we're just going to keep gluing them and kind of press them together until the shape holds. And once we get those done, we will move on. But I did want to show you here the whole process so you kind of see how I do it. And we'll finish up gluing those. Once I was done with those, then I took a craft stick or a popsicle stick, whatever you want to call them, and sort of used it to measure how big I wanted the hat to be. And then I'm going to use some navy blue. I did switch out colors because the first color was a little brighter than I wanted. So I'm using, I believe it's just called navy blue. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply that to the top part of the hat using one of my little sponges. Make sure it's dry. And then I'm going to apply that same color to the craft stick. So I did do front and back on the craft stick. Next, I'm going to come in with the color light mocha, and I am going to use that for the face, and I'm going to go ahead and just use a paintbrush here. And you can kind of see how I just sort of used that craft stick to kind of measure out how the size that I wanted that face to be. Next, I'm going to come in with some red. I'm using the color flamenco red for this, and I'm going to go ahead and add some stripes. And I'm just using a small paintbrush here, and I'm just eyeballing here where I want the stripes. So we're going to add that, and then we're going to add one more set of red stripes. And then once the red stripes are on, I do recommend drying that well before you come in with the white. And then I'm just going to start to add the white stripes. So I'm just using that small paintbrush again, and I'm just adding these white stripes in between. And make sure, like I said, that your red is nice and dry before you add the white stripes so your colors don't run together. So I'm going to make sure that's dry. And I realized I forgot a white stripe up top, so I went back and added that in. So I'm just adding the white stripes. You can do the sides too. I did do the sides, I believe. I'm just not showing it. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this craft stick down for the top part of the hat and use some sandpaper. And I'm just going to scuff this up to give it that rustic look. And I did the same on my Uncle Sam. I do recommend letting your everything dry better than I did. You can kind of see how the red ran together when I sanded it. So let it dry maybe overnight before you sand it. Then I'm going to come in with some antique wax. I am just using Waverly Antique wax and a baby wipe, and I'm just going over the entire project with that. And then I'm going to glue the rim of the hat here in place. And next I'm going to draw on the eyes. I'm using a Sharpie paint effect marker for this. I absolutely love those. And then I'm using some Spanish moss for the beard, and I'm just going to go ahead and use hot glue to glue that in place and kind of put the sideburns on. And then I did give them a little bit of a shave job here. Just going to trim them up. And I did add some eyebrows with a Sharpie extra fine point marker. And then I put some whites in the middle of his eyes, again, with one of those Sharpie paint effect markers. Now I have this stencil. I am pretty sure I got this on Amazon. And I'm just using some white paint, and I'm just going to add those stars to the rim of the hat. And then I'm coming over to the bottom part here, and I'm going to add some twine underneath his beard. And I just wrapped it around a few times, and then I'm going to go ahead and tie that in place and just tie a little bow so it looks super cute. Just like that, and trim that down a little bit. And I did glue it in place just so it stays. And then I decided he needed a nose, so I came back to one of these half beads, and I just painted it with that same mocha color, and I just did the same sanding, staining to give it the same look as the rest of the project. And then I just glued that in place. And this one turned out so super cute. Let me know what you think and if you plan to give this one a try. Thanks so much for watching.